All right, great. It is December 12th, 2023. I am just returning from 6 weeks of a retreat. And yes, I actually was shared a taxi with two people to leave the retreat, and the driver, who's like a regular Spirit Rock, drives people there all the time, was very chatty and like took us on a tour. Like first he checked like when we needed to be at the airport, and then he was like, "Oh, okay, well let me show you the Worcester Airport," and like takes us off the main road. We're like, "Okay," and let me show you the Worcester minor league baseball stadium. Okay, so I'm sitting in the front seat, and the other guys are like, one of them has headphones on in the back seat, and the other guy is just like silent. And I'm just chatting up a storm with this guy because I'm like, I have this thing. It's like I want to meet people where they are with their energy, even if I'm not really feeling it. And um, I also like he would like go off, and I like wanted to like put my own flag in the ground a little bit. Like, I don't want to just listen to your talk. I'm going to say something. I'm going to talk about something completely different. So after a while, he goes, "Wow, you're talking a lot for somebody coming. Usually people don't talk at all when they come out of the retreat." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I'm doing that on purpose." And man, I was glad to get out of that cab. Like the airport was like, "Oh, this is like really peaceful now." Anyway, yeah, it was a good sit. So, yeah, this is the first time I've actually done any, well, I'll call this teaching, although I don't really, I don't really teach in this session. I just hang out. We've been doing this since March 13th of 2020, and I started this Zoom to support the community through COVID. And when we first started out, we were all really kind of quarantined, and we needed to just be together. And really, I've just kept it going for that, just to be together, not to like, give you some big Dharma teaching. And I don't like that burden of like expectation anyway. Like, oh, Kevin Griffin is going to give us some wisdom. I just want to hang out and practice and talk about Dharma. Um, but I will say uh, that before we sit, we will sit in a minute or two. I will say that on this retreat, there was a point early on when I hit a really difficult space, which, is normal. And I needed to think about people who loved me. And very quickly, I thought of this group and many of you who have been with me these years and your faces. And I kind of saw this screen that I'm looking at now. And I kind of saw, Eleanor and Mary Helen and, um, Steve and Anne and Jeff and Monica and Angela and I felt that it really helped me, and I know that sort of sounds maybe backwards from how like it's supposed to work, right? But I just felt how you guys love me, and I can't tell you how how much that helped me. I actually did more metta on this retreat than I've ever done on a retreat, and I wasn't doing it as like phrases and stuff. I did develop a practice, which I might share at some point, but it was mostly like thinking of people and feeling love for them and feeling the love they have for me. And because I've often on retreats um, fallen into difficult mind states, depressive mind states, and I sort of didn't do that on this retreat. I just realized I could replace that with metta, and maybe I'll talk more about that. I didn't, as usual, have a plan, so but I do want us to sit. Yeah, let's establish our meditation posture, as the Buddha says, setting the body erect. And in this case, you can even lie down, but he says, setting the body erect and establishing mindfulness to the fore. Ever mindful, we breathe in. Ever mindful, we breathe out. You can close your eyes or just lower your gaze and feeling the body moving with the breath. Letting the awareness of the breath and the body ground the attention in the present moment. Or we can use the idea of the elements to establish this, to feel the weight of the body, the earth element, the density. Feeling the temperature of the body, coolness or warmth. This is the fire element. And feeling the movement, the air element, the wind element, and the breath, and the other subtle movements of body. The water element is the one of cohesion that actually maintains the flesh. So feeling the breath and the body sitting still. And if the attention is a little scattered, just try following an entire breath from start to finish. And do that a few times. Breathing in, breathing out. Feeling how the body naturally settles when we're able to sustain the attention on the breath. In, out. And as the body begins to settle, tuning in then to the more subtle felt experience, you could call it emotion or feeling, Buddhist language of Vedana. No feeling exists within the body, not separate from the body. We breathe with feeling. We sense that we can be aware of breath, and body, and feeling as all contained within this mind, the space of mind. If you find yourself lost in thoughts or drifting, come back again to that starting point of the breath and the body, re-grounding the attention. We're not trying to get anywhere with this practice, really just trying to be here. So there's no sense of really progress per se. To go back to the starting point is not to fail or to regress. The starting point is really the end point as much as anything. All right. So nice to see the gang here this morning. You may have noticed I wasn't at, if you went to the Spirit Rock class on Friday, I chose not to try to teach that like 3 days after coming back from retreat. So that's why I wasn't there. Um, so yeah, so for those who don't know, I just completed a 6 week retreat last Tuesday officially, although the silence really broke a couple days before that. Yeah, interesting. I mean, I actually, the reason I signed up for that retreat was because I'm working on a book on what's called the Anapanasati Sutta, which is the Buddhist teaching just on mindfulness of breathing. And it's, I felt that in order to really explore that practice deeply enough that I could have any authority writing about it, I needed to do a longer retreat. I'd done a few shorter retreats, weeks or 10 days, working with it. But so that was really, really interesting. I've never gone into a retreat with a goal like that, and I recognize that as somewhat risky. Uh, as anybody who's tried had a goal when they meditated knows, got to watch out. So, so I took it fairly lightly. I didn't sort of go in with a lot of expectation. In fact, I just said to myself, I don't know what's going to happen. It might not be about the Anapanasati Sutta, the retreat. It might be about something else. But indeed, I was able to work with it in ways that revealed a lot to me about that teaching and really helped me. I've been doing Buddhist practice for 43 years, and as kind of happens in life, I was kind of like, oh, now I understand. Um, the sutta is very simple. It's following the four foundations of mindfulness: body, feelings, mind, and what I call insights. And what I think the biggest takeaway I got from it was that the sutta is not a prescription for meditation. It's a description of meditation, of what happens when you set out to be mindful of the breath and to follow, see what see what arises out of that. And what arises out of that is a very natural progression of awareness that starts with the body and then moves into the felt experience and then opens out into the mind and consciousness or awareness itself, and then finally sort of opens up into insights about that, about the process of those things. And I also realized that in my years of practice, I've explored all these areas quite deeply. That there was nothing new that was being revealed. It was really seeing it all in as seeing that it's all part of a system. Whereas I think in previous practice experience, there's kind of been a sense of, oh, this is happening, oh, this is happening, like sort of disconnected or random things happening in meditation. And having the Anapanasati as this framework helped me to see that it's all part of one thing, that it all holds together. And that makes the practice brings a kind of ease to the practice because at any moment you can kind of back out and ask yourself, like, where am I? There were times when I very intentionally worked through the 16 steps of the Anapanasati Sutta. Then there were other times when I just sat and tried to follow the breath and be mindful and aware. And then my mind would go to different places. And then I would notice, oh, I'm at step 7 right now, or I'm at step 11. It was like, oh, there, there's nothing that happened in that practice that was outside of that framework, which was really revealing and definitely influenced as have come back and started to work again on the book has really helped me to frame that. So there's a lot I could say about that, but I won't right now since this is a relatively short gathering. I think the other thing that I would uh, kind of bring up, and I think maybe there will be some questions today, so I'll leave some time for that. But as I was talking about before we sat, the working with metta, and I kind of landed on this thing of the replacing and the when there were difficult emotions coming up, having very intentionally using loving kindness meditation, and it's always a question in mindfulness practice. There's a how how intentional to be, or how much effort towards actually controlling our experience we should be. And this is a really important question, and one that doesn't have a simple answer, because it really depends upon circumstances and mind states, and is sort of skillfully responding. But there's a way in which mindfulness can be depicted as this kind of passive practice. And I think that's one of the failings of the secular mindfulness movement, that it often depicts mindfulness as just be aware of what's happening. That's all you do. And that's certainly not what the Buddha taught. Um, and it can leave you as something of a passive participant, even like almost a victim of your own experience. Like, oh, well, this is happening. There's nothing I can do about it. And I think I've made the mistake of practicing in that way. At the same time, we can't sort of go in and say, well, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make this happen. Clearly, we don't have control over our mind and body. Uh, and that's, the sort of argument the Buddha makes about not self, but that's another talk in itself. But that doesn't mean that we don't have influence. We don't have control over our mind and body, but we have some influence. We are participants. And so what I was drawing on, particularly in the first couple of weeks of the retreat, working with some of the difficult states, was the famous, famous in Buddhist circles, certain Buddhist circles, uh, Majjhima Nikaya number 20, uh, I think it's Vitakka. I'm trying to learn the Pali Vitakka Santana Sutta, but anyway, it's better known to me as the removal of distracting thoughts. It's a sutta that's very often referred to, Majjhima Nikaya 20, uh, often referred to by Dharma teachers, because it gives 5 strategies for working with difficult thoughts. And and it should be said, first of all, that this isn't for just any circumstance. Really, it's clear, particularly when you get to number 5, that this is about things that are really a problem. But the 5 strategies, the first one is replacing. And this is the one I was referring to before, where you're feeling distress, you're feeling like somebody hates you, or you're feeling self-hatred. And because this is kind of what I was using, and you bring in loving kindness to replace that state. Now, again, we have to be very careful, and it really takes, it's an art form how to do that. You can't sort of like pound it in there. Here, give me some loving kindness. Get out of here. There's a subtlety, a felt experience, but I like the term inclining the mind, so that we kind of, you're feeling this. You have to first of all tune into the unpleasant feeling. You can't start by like, oh, I don't want to feel that. Let me get something else. You have to start with, this is what's happening, and be very clear about that, and be okay with that, not in a conflict with that. So you're not acting out of aversion. You're acting out of skillful responsiveness. So you feel this, we'll say, feel this, painful self-negative feeling, self-hatred. I don't like term self-hatred, but what was the one that What Jill Shepherd would say, the quoting Suchito, the inner, what was it? Do you guys remember, Joe? You remember that?
The inner tyrant.
Tyrant, right? The inner tyrant. Very good. Thank you. So you're feeling that inner tyrant, and then you bring up, like, what can you bring up that's loving? So, as I said, I was bringing up, first of all, I was bringing up the Ajahn Pasano, some of you know. The last time I saw him, he walked up to me with his smile and this kindness that I realized when I thought of him just felt like metta, like pure metta. And when I would see him and think, he loves me, not like, oh, he really, like Kevin, I'm his best friend, but rather that he's this embodiment of loving kindness and that his response to anyone really is love. And then, as I said, I brought up many of the faces on this group, and that was replacing, right? Replacing the tyrant, replacing that anger, that painful feeling. So that's the really the main thing I kind of want to talk about. I should, if I'm bringing up these five strategies, I will mention the others. The others are, I'm not sure I have them in order, but the one that I've always enjoyed because it's so gross is the imagining that there's these uh, carcasses hanging from your body and sort of seeing how like just destructive and disgusting. Like, why am I having these horrible thoughts? Like, no, I don't need these thoughts. So uh, that's one. That's number two. And then there's a turn. It just kind of it's interesting, very subtle one, which is uh, as if a person were blind. You look away. And again, these are strategies that are sort of antithetical to typical mindfulness teachings. Like, oh no, you shouldn't be ignoring it. But the Buddha is saying, no, some things you should ignore. Like the inner tyrant. Like, why should I listen to this voice? There's nothing there. I mean, yeah, when we first encounter things like this, we do want to investigate, like, what's going on? Why do I have this? Where's this coming from? Great. Like, there's a certain value in that. But then after a while, you see, this is just this conditioned habit that just shows up in my mind. It doesn't deserve my attention. So the idea, like, I'm just going to ignore it, which of course is not necessarily easy to do, but there you go. That's the third strategy, to ignore it. The fourth one is this one where the Buddha says, as if a man were running and he realized, oh, why don't I just walk? And then walking, he thought, why not just stand? And then standing, just thought, why not just sit? And then sitting, why not just lie down? So we progressively, and I think of this as kind of an energetic process of just settling. Right. And this is, I think you often do in meditation where you just kind of like you feel like, oof, there's a lot of energy going on. You just kind of breathe, maybe some deeper breaths, release. In the Anapanasati Sutta, this is the fourth step, which is calming it, calming the body. And it's then also the eighth step, which is calming the mental formations or calming the mind. So we just do this. Yeah, I'm just gonna like settle, settle, settle very intentionally, right? And again, it's kind of inclining the mind. It's not suppressing, not pushing it down. It's just like, oh, can I just chill a little bit? So we work with that. And the fifth, so that's four. And then the fifth one is even if a strong man were to beat down and crush a weaker man, we beat down and crush mind with mind, as the Buddha says. Like, oh boy, that's definitely not an image that's associated with Buddhism typically, the crushing the mind with mind. But these are desperate. It's different and desperate times call for desperate measures. There you go. That's really, and it's a rare thing. And I don't crush mind with mind, but what I do, which I think is kind of a version of this, is I make a vow. I just say no. I'm not going to think it. I'm not going to. This is like, no, forget it. And there's you guys, Amy and Joe, know that outside the meditation hall on the side of the building, there's a Buddha Rupa, a statue of the Buddha, and he's in the famous, what's called the Abhaya mudra. A mudra is just like a stance or a posture. And we hear about mudras, that things people do with their hands that are mudras. So the Abhaya mudra, the Buddha has his hand up like this, and Abhaya means fearless. So he's saying, "Bring it on. I am not afraid." And this is he's speaking to Mara, kind of on his enlightenment, when he's being attacked by Mara. But I had decided that the Abhaya Mudra had another meaning, which is stop. Didn't one of the teachers say like stop in the name of love at one point? I think one of them said that in one of the teaching. Oh, that was you, Amy? Okay, well, you're my teacher then. Thank you. Which is perfect, right? That's beautiful. I love that. It goes exactly with what I'm saying. But I would at times, literally, I would bring my hand up and and I would just go, just stick my hand up for a second, like stop. And it was not beating down mind with mind, but it was just saying no, just saying no. So those are the five strategies of the Majjhima Nikaya 20. It's a sutta worth exploring repeatedly, and exploring the strategies and understanding the strategies, and seeing if you can find your own expressions of them, because they're not always that clear. But the removing or the replacing, uh, as if a carpenter were to replace a coarse peg with a fine peg, this is the image, uh, is really one of the most useful practices, and very often suggested to do that with metta practice. So there you go. That was a lot of teaching, really, for just like 15 minutes. You got the Anapanasati Sutta, the Vitaka Sutta, and there you go. So let me just see if anybody wanted to ask a question or comment. Happy to hear from anybody. Oh, Steve, hey. Hi, man.
Well, a couple quick comments. First of all, I think I speak for everybody, but I'll speak for myself that you are truly and deeply loved. And not having you with us for 6 weeks, excuse me, I even got emotional when you came in and said hello to all of us. It's just you are deeply loved, and you've been missed. I've missed you a lot. So thanks to those who stepped up, and Angela and Monica and Ann and the rest of the people. I didn't miss a single Tuesday while you were gone. I'm very
Oh,
proud to
good.
say
Good.
that. I could feel your presence when I was here on Tuesday. I'm curious. I'm starting to evolve and experiencing some really rapid growth because of all the sitting I've been doing and just listening to you talk. I'm curious, did you have any experiences or during your meditations? I just finished a little one-day class on the power of now, which threw me right back into the teachings of the Buddha. And I'm starting to do this meditation on death, and I found it's just incredible. I mean, it's not like a bad thing. I mean, this stuff is coming up in my head that I am eventually my body is going to deteriorate, and I'm feeling I'm
It's
deteriorating.
already deteriorating, Steve. I've
It
got bad
is.
news for you.
Totally. I agree. So, did you experience any of those meditations while you were on your retreat?
Every morning, I recite the 5 daily contemplations. I am of the nature to age, to sicken, and to die. All that is mine, dear and delightful, will change and vanish. And I add to that, I must be separated from everyone and everything that I hold dear. I am born of my karma, heir to my karma, related to my karma, supported my karma, owner of my karma. Whatever karma I do, whether wholesome or unwholesome, this I will inherit. So yes, I did that every morning on the retreat. When they rang the bell at the end of the morning sit before breakfast, I would then recite the 5 daily contemplations. And yeah, reflections on death are, essential to Buddhist practice. They're at the heart of, in many ways, first of all, just because impermanence is so key to the teachings. And then, I was just looking at something from Ajahn Pasno, uh, where he talks about the urgency of practice, because and that the Buddha would say, the days are passing quickly, and so practice with great urgency.
I am, and it's working. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, and thanks for your kind words, Steve. Are you coming in February to the retreat?
I've already sent my deposit in. I'll be there with bells on.
Okay, good. That we are. I don't know if we got that into the chat, but we are having a 5-day Buddhism 12-step retreat. Well, I don't know. I call it 12-step. We hardly really do the steps anymore. But Buddhist recovery retreat in Northern California for those who are interested in joining. Mary Helen, hi.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
Glad to have you back. And I
Thank
was
you.
really touched by your um, comment that we on these screens were with you during some significant times in your retreat. I mean, what a strange thing that is. All of us in these little boxes, just imagining one another to be real.
Yeah.
I'm just so touched that it makes these Zoom meditations seem more significant, and I appreciate that.
It surprised me. I something happened a few days before the retreat. I had an encounter with someone who was extremely angry with me, and it was something that normally would have gotten kind of worked out in a couple of days. And in my mind, I mean, there's no working out the relationship, but it's one of those things that, it would have been like, oh, it's impermanent, it'll pass, in a week I would have like forgotten it. But because I like 3 days later, I'm dropped into the retreat, and the beginning of the retreat was really difficult, just energetically, because traveling from the West Coast, and they had a 5 a.m. wake up, which is really rude. Um, so basically, I was getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and as some of you might know, I'm not generally an early riser at all. So so I carried that, in, and several days into the retreat, I was doing some walking meditation, and I just stopped and went, okay, I really need to allow this feeling in, because it was like the clouds were starting to lift. It was like, okay, there's this painful thing, and doing slow walking, and I'm letting myself feel this, and then I just kind of stopped and was like, I just intuitively knew, I don't know, I just knew, like, I need to think of people that love me, because thinking about this person who apparently hates me now, was not something sustainable. I couldn't like really manage it. And I just sort of asked myself, well, who loves me? And I didn't, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to start thinking. I mean, of course, my wife and daughter came in, but they actually weren't the first ones that I thought of because I was kind of, those are complicated relationships when you're married and everything is, but my relationship with you guys is very simple, it really is. It's just like we're together in the Dharma and in our recovery. And I, as I said, Ajahn Asano came up very quickly. And then, and I think that literally it's a weird thing, but I think that having you guys on this screen all these years helped, because it wasn't just like, oh, I had to think of individuals, kind of like really literally I saw the screen. And, it's pretty imprinted in my mind. I'm sure it is for you guys too, in a way. If you just close your eyes and think about this class, it's like you kind of see all these faces. And so then I just started to pick faces out that I knew, and that I really felt very, simple, pure connection with. And I started to sob. And I was, there's lots of crying that goes on in the retreats, though wasn't too worried about it. It was very intense. And it was really the only time when I really sobbed on that retreat. But I took it as like, oh, this is a resource. So I wasn't like, okay, that was good. I was like, no, I'm going to keep calling upon that. So I did. I kept calling upon you guys repeatedly through the retreat. That was pretty sweet. And yeah, for some reason, Mary Helen, you usually wind up in my upper left-hand corner, and I saw you there. And then Eleanor's right down there, kind of in the middle of this little bit. So, you know. Hey, Anne, go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, hi. Hey. Yeah, oh yeah, the screen is such an interesting, the boxes. Maybe it's because I also grew up with the Brady Bunch at Friday night.
And then there's Hollywood Squares. So
And
then you get,
and all the rerun. That's right. We were set up for this.
yes.
One thing I just thought, I'll just share it. You don't have to answer, but I wonder what the tears were about.
What the tears were about?
Yeah.
I think they were about realizing that I am loved.
Yeah.
And I don't usually let that in. Not on that level, like that I needed to be loved, and I was loved, and that was, really comforting and powerful and intense,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It was not about the hatred.
Right.
It wasn't about being hated, because that would be like self-pity or something. It wasn't that. It was really letting myself feel, I mean, I'm not a particularly mushy Dharma teacher, Um, I mean, even my book, Living Kindness, I kind of, after the retreat, I was like, I kind of need to go back and write another chapter. I was kind of rough on people with that book, because it's kind of like, you know, saying like, don't use metta as a mushy practice. But after the retreat, I was like, yeah, I think I might have been using it. Whatever.
No, yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, just thank you for your practice in general. And I really see it as, I see the gift, I see the gift of the generosity of
Mm.
you going there, not just for yourself, but for all of us, for, you know, all of us. It's, I see it, I feel it. And I appreciate that.
It was interesting being a student, and in some ways I really didn't fit in there, but I also just felt, as I do really, the ordinariness of my own practice. There's nothing exceptional
Mhm,
about me as a meditator,
mhm.
you know. And I think we often, I know I often like, oh, those teachers, they're so advanced, or and that's not me, the only thing I have, and what I will hang my hat on is the long enduring mind. To me, what I have to offer is that I've kept doing this for 43 years. You know, it's nothing special that's happened to me or that I've done. You know, I've never been to Asia. You know, I don't have like a, you know, I don't have any like amazing enlightenment experiences to share. You know, I just
No,
sit.
you know, but the faith and confidence that inspires
Yeah.
is,
And that's what it's founded in,
yeah,
exactly, is faith. I
yeah,
have tremendous faith in the Dharma.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Dharma takes care of those who take care of the Dharma. That's Munindra, you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. I very much believe
Just
that.
one more, the other thing is about the Anapanasati,
Yeah.
that when I did that retreat, you
Yeah.
know, I thought the same thing. I was like, about it being a system. This
Yeah.
isn't like, I understood like all the practice that I've been doing was a part of a whole, and
Yep.
it wasn't these pieces. And to see it all as one piece, one greater, really was really enlightening. And
Yeah.
helpful. It helped me rest in a wholeness.
Yep.
And that's carried
Yep. And
for
and
September.
and I will say that if there's a message I want to get out with this book, it's
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
It's that there is there is some holistic thing, because I really do. I mean, my experience certainly in practice has been this kind of like, oh, there's these different things, you know, and that makes it confusing. What, you know, you kind of don't know I don't know,
yeah, I,
what's happening, and so to be able to put it all in like, oh yeah. I'm not outside the lines here. You know, oh, I'm just over here. I'm in this part of it, you know.
and is it true that this was the practice the Buddha taught, the Buddha, when he would go off and spend some time alone, this is what the practice he was doing? And someone,
That's what it says in the suttas.
yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
That
yeah,
he says to Ananda, if anybody asks what I'm doing while I'm off
right,
on retreat, tell them I am doing this. Yeah,
yeah.
I
Okay.
know.
Oh,
Interesting.
good. Okay. Well, thank you.
All right, Ann. Angela. Yeah, I was hanging out with your buddy, Buddha Rakita, your Ugandan
Yeah,
friend.
I know. I look forward to hearing more about
Yeah.
just that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great working with him because it was just pure Dharma. You know, there wasn't any
Yeah,
like, let's talk about our feelings. We just got right down into the Anapanasati together.
cool.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, gosh, lots of things. It's so nice to see you and sit with you. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to add my, you know, voice of appreciation and love back to you, and sitting, you know, with the group while you were away, especially doing the peer led, because, you know, we'd read from the daily reflections, and it
Mm.
really felt like we had you here with us. And
Oh,
uh
man, this is a little
yeah, and
love fest this morning, man. This is,
yeah, well, and just, you know, I've been reflecting on generosity and
yeah.
connection, and Anne and I have talked a little bit about it, and she spoke when she taught, she spoke about it, and that's what we shared about in the peer led groups as well, just how, because for me, like coming to, you know, the group, and I've experienced this in my mentor group as well, my peer group for MMTCP, but just the, yeah, like the joy and the like, I just find myself really taking in the good, you know, from the group, and
Yeah.
but also just appreciating that it's here, you know, appreciating, and like your generosity for creating this group in the first place, and showing up all these years, all of us for showing up, and but yeah, you in particular, and creating this space. And you know, it's interesting just in hearing you reflect more, even since I raised my hand, it's like, also recovery, and this bond that we share in recovery is so
Yeah.
meaningful. Like that's also obviously what you offer, that is, there's not too many people that teachers that have this experience of being in recovery that can share so openly and honestly, that I know for me, that's what because it feels like a unique or extra challenge at times, but yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, we can always chat more. I don't know if you want to say anything about, but when you said that you felt like you didn't fit in, I'm just reminded of, I had this conversation with my sponsor recently about fitting in, and she reminded me that that's kind of a, like people in recovery, we often feel like we don't fit in,
Right.
So it's just interesting to hear you say that. But yeah, so much more I could say. I just
Yeah.
wanted to add my appreciation, and yeah,
Yeah.
you're just such a meaningful teacher. So
What month are you going to Spirit Rock for?
February.
Okay. All right.
I'm on the wait list for March, but yeah.
Oh, really? Okay. So we'll get together before that, because I'll have
Yeah.
some thoughts. Um,
Yeah.
and you reminded me, I really want to say how much I appreciate all the people who donated to my retreat. For a couple months before the retreat, I started to say I'm inviting people to help pay for my retreat. That's very generous of me, offering you the opportunity for all that good karma. But really, I mean, frankly, I did do that partly to make you feel invested, a little bit, to connected to what I was doing. Obviously, it helps financially, but it was very, very touching to receive those Venmos and checks and things from people, and just to be supported in that way. So that was something else that kind of did come up. Um, yeah, and I do have to say, Angela, that being in recovery is one of the things that makes me feel out of place somewhat on retreats, because I my projections and maybe judgments are that there's a lot of unacknowledged dysfunction going on. One of the elder women at the end of the retreat, when we were chatting, there was kind of a group of elders who were hanging out together a bit. One of them said, "This retreat is boot camp for yogi mind." And yogi mind is the kind of spinning out and addictive kind of mind where you just get caught in swirls and just and she wasn't even in recovery as far as I know, but it really struck me as well that I feel like there's not much acknowledgement of how much there's kind of like, oh well, just let them go, they'll figure it out, which is true as well. I mean, I was talking to Shelley, one of the teachers, who's an old friend of mine, and she was like, we're all just sort of trying to find our way. So that it's true that although we can say there's a map like the Anapanasati Sutta, there's also no real map for how to survive all this stuff. Like it's it's a mess. Our minds are messes, and so for me to be judging people as being dysfunctional is kind of, you know, a little I don't know, not fair. Because because obviously, I mean, after I was on the 3-month retreat there, the last time I was there on retreat in 1981, and 6 months later, I was following a homeless guru and leaving my home, and then 2 months after that, I was just living on the street in Venice Beach, California. So uh, I have not taken the straight path to enlightenment. It took me a long, long time to make any sense out of this path, and I think that's probably, I think my case was a little bit worse than most, but I mean, after the ecstasy, the laundry is pretty much about that, right? Like that, you get on this path, throw yourself in, and all of a sudden you're like off the wall, or you're, whatever, you're drowning, or, so it's tough. It's really a tough path, but yeah, being an addict, in recovery, being, it can add a level of complexity and just, uh, oh, it gives you an orientation that I think is different from others, because it really gives you this foundation in sila that sometimes seems to be lacking. So, all right, I'll end my, verging on being judgmental there, and we are well past the 11 o'clock stopping time, so this is bonus material. So Monica, go ahead. I have a lunch date too, so I'm not going much past this.
Oh, that's all right. I just wanted to say, in addition, I would second a lot of things that Angela said, but also that for everybody who still showed up, and supported the Sangha,
Yeah.
and those who thought about it, it was, I don't know. I felt like we could do it again. We could support this again if you needed to be gone again. So,
Well, I'm not going on any long retreats anytime soon, believe me.
okay. That we were, yeah, but I felt like everybody here was part of the Sangha and the team and the effort and so.
I'm really happy to hear that, because it was certainly one of my concerns. Like, it's really good when community creates community, rather than, oh, there's a teacher and let's go hear him. It's like, no, that's not the point of this. The point of this really is to be together and to practice together. Yeah.
Well, we were learning too. Angela, when we had to do, they didn't have to, but when we did peer led, and so we're learning too. And thank you everybody for your patience and your support, and your input and your love. I've heard privately for several people. So yeah.
Yeah. So I will say that my intention is, to probably go. I want the Friday night to keep going, but I don't want to keep teaching it all the time. So I want to keep the Tuesday morning as my one thing. But I think after the first of the year, that'll be kind of the move. I'm not sure over these coming weeks how much I'm going to show up on Friday nights, and I'll have to talk to people who might be willing to show up, because obviously with the holidays, my daughter's coming home, and having family time. But so that's just for you to know my plan after 3 years to cut back to once a week. And you should know that I am teaching a day long for Spirit Rock on Zoom, because they won't let me come out there anymore. I must think I have bad breath or something. On December 30th. So that's my Keep Coming Back Dharma Recovery and Renewal that I've been doing for many years, day long, December 30th. And then I'm starting up a Living Kindness course online for the Barry Center for Buddhist Studies, BCBS, which is right around the corner from where I did the retreat. That is starting in January. On Tuesday, it's going to be, for us, it'll be 4 p.m. East Coast, 7 o'clock. So it'll be Tuesday afternoons, starting on January 16th for 6 weeks. So I know some of you have probably done a Living Kindness course with me already. So, but if you're interested, that'll be happening. And then we have the residential retreat, February 27th to March 3rd. So those are the things I'm going to be marketing in the coming weeks. All right, great to see everybody. Thanks for your support and patience and your practice. Good job, Billy Sunday.
Yeah, thank you,
Welcome home.
Monica.
Good to see you.
I just wanted to say thank you to Monica and Ann and everybody else, Angela, for taking over. Did a
Thank
great
you.
job. And we got squared away with that the dates on the Zoom and everything. So we're good.
Great. Wonderful. All right.
Thank you again.
Blessings.
See you, Kevin.
Okay, Steve.
Bye, thanks,
Take care, everybody.
everybody.
Thank you,
Take
Kevin.
care.
Thanks, Eleanor.
Thanks, Kevin. Welcome back.
All right, Mike.
Welcome back.
Part of the club,
Glad you're-
the Meta Club. I had to dig up the men. Who are the men? Oh, John and Mike. They were the men.
Well, Steve was like, every time, oh, we've got to support the Sangha,
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
the biggest cheerleader.
he was the voice. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Nice. All right, you guys. I'm ending the meeting
Bye,
for
love
all.
you. Bye.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye.